Welcome back to the Rollout. I'm Jeff Pratt, and joining me as always is Trent Henrich. How's it going, Trent?
It's going well, and we got a man who was here last week, and he's back again.
Yes, I know, Jay. We brought you in last week on somewhat of a trial basis, and you did better than both of us in picks. So you're back again to defend your record. Just to recap, last week, Jay, you did go 10 for 14. I went 9 for 14. Trent took a couple of dogs, as he was saying earlier, and ended up going 6 for 14. So he's looking to turn that around. So Jay, obviously, sitting 10 for 14, being that being his first week doing predictions. Trent, you are at 65 for 105, and I am 69 for 105. So why don't we just jump straight into these week 8 predictions? We have Thursday night football tomorrow. Should be a pretty good one. I know we've had a couple of duds so far on Thursday nights, but the Atlanta Falcons are taking on the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Usually in prior years, this would be a smash hit for the Falcons. That probably won't be the case this year because Teddy Bridgewater, the new man under center for them, Matt Rule, their new head coach, they've got it going in Carolina. They look like a completely revamped team. Trent, I'll throw it to you. Who are you taking in this game?
I mean, the Falcons have blown more fourth quarter leads and won games this season, so I'm not going to choose them. That's for sure. I like Teddy Bridgewater. He's looked like a legit quarterback through 7 weeks this year, and yeah, the Panthers are starting to click. DJ Moore had a good game. We've been talking about him getting a bigger role in this offense, and that happened. He still has Robbie Anderson, wide receiver as well. I don't think CMC is going to be back this week, but Mike Davis has done a fine job filling in for him. He had a down week last week, but I'm sure he'll bring it back against this poor Falcons defense. So, yeah, I'm going with the Panthers at home. I think this is a pretty good opportunity for them to get a big win.
All right, Jay, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Trent. It's basically the same thing I said about the Falcons Lions game. I mean, I can't pick the Falcons many times this year unless they're playing the Jets. Giant, there's a handful of teams that I would pick the Falcons over, and I don't think this Panthers team is one of them. For all the reasons Trent just said, and also, man, it just seems like the Falcons cannot win games. I mean, the Lions game, it came down to the last second to let them drive all the way down the field, and with no time on the clock, lost the game. This is clearly just not their season, and I have to pick the Panthers.
Yeah, I picked the Falcons last game, and even when Todd Gurley tries not to score a touchdown, they still somehow find a way to lose that game. If Gurley goes down there without scoring, the Falcons will win that game. Period. That's a fact, in my opinion, at least. But nope, he unfortunately got into the end zone, and we all know that Stafford found T.J. Hawkinson at the buzzer. And for the same reasons you guys says, I'm taking Carolina top to bottom. I think they're a better football team this year. They're definitely more mentally tough, that's for sure. Teddy Bridgewater, so happy to see him out there after a couple of really bad injuries. Finally get back out on the field as a starter and excel as he has. DJ Moore is a name. He's a guy that has really picked things up over the last couple of weeks after starting out pretty slow. He might be eating into Robbie Anderson's touches a little bit, but people were expecting more to be the wide receiver one there in the first place. And I think that we're finally starting to see him and Bridgewater connect. The Panthers defense, despite not being experienced whatsoever, they've been pretty stout this year. So I think that's got to tip my cap to Matt Rule there. And I'm going to take Carolina pretty much for the same reasons you guys did. All right. We all roll with the Panthers on Thursday Night Football. Moving into the weekend games, we have normally what would be a big hitter as well, but one of these teams just hasn't been nearly as good this year. The Minnesota Vikings taking on the Green Bay Packers, who got a much-needed bounce-back win last week. Jay, I'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I mean, I view this very similar to the Texans-Packers game last week. I think the Texans and the Vikings, now I'm thinking about it, are sort of comparable. They both have very spotty defenses and currently underperforming offenses, although Deshaun Watson, again, is doing his thing, no doubt about that. It's hard for him right now because of his situation around him and this team. So I don't think the Vikings are going to keep up with that Packers offense. And I think basically the same thing what I said about Aaron Rodgers last week. I don't know how much this Vikings defense is going to force him off of his first read. I think he's going to have his day. You have to do a lot to stop Aaron Rodgers this year, and I don't think this Vikings team is capable.
Sounds good. Trent, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, this Vikings team has been pretty spotty this season. Their offense has clicked at times. I don't think it matters if their offense clicks in this game or not because the Packers are going to win this game. They have a better defense and a better offense, in my opinion. Aaron Rodgers is honestly looking like an MVP candidate through 7 weeks. Aaron Jones has been pretty dominant. He was banged up, and Jamal Williams and AJ Dillon have filled in for him last week. They still looked really good. Yeah, I'm rolling with the Packers at home. They already beat the Vikings on the road, and they'll beat them at home as well.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both you guys here. I think the only way that Green Bay loses this game is if Devontae Adams gets hurt at the beginning of the game again. It looks like Aaron Jones will be out for a second straight week after pulling his, I think it was calf a couple weeks ago. But as you said, Trent, Jamal Williams filled in like an RB1 and probably helping his prospects to get paid whenever he hits free agency. That's another matter entirely, obviously. But we know that Jamal Williams, he's capable of filling in, handling a significant workload now. He's a very talented player. Devontae Adams looked like one of the best, if not the best receivers in football last week. We know the connection that he and Aaron Rodgers has. There's no one on this Vikings defense that can keep up with him. And I think that we saw when the Vikings traded Yannick Ngakoue, again, they were accepting defeat for this season. These are not games that you'd regularly see them not lose, but lose in a dominant fashion. That's what happened this week, taking the Packers by a lot. All right. So we are all three of us on the same page the first couple of games. Let's see if that changes with the next matchup. We have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Trent, who are you taking?
Yeah, I mean, I had some faith in the Bengals last week, and they put up a really good fight against the Browns. I mean, they're up till the end of the game, but Baker had, I mean, he flipped a switch. He started, I think it was 0 for 5 with the pick, and then he had 5 touchdowns, and he looked great. But the Bengals, yeah, they let me down, and I'm not going to roll with them again. I think the Titans, I mean, they lost a close one against Pittsburgh, almost completed the comeback. Steven Gostkowski missed it was a long field goal, but he missed it. And, yeah, I still think the Titans are going to roll through this Bengals team. Their offense is really good. And the Bengals almost seem like they're in rebuild mode because they're shopping around a lot of these guys in their offense and defense. And, yeah, I think the Bengals are probably going to give up on this season pretty soon. So I'm rolling with the Titans here, and I think it could be by a large margin.
Yeah, I hear you there, Trent. As you said, the Bengals did actually trade Carlos Dunlap the afternoon in which we are recording this. And, as you said, they might be looking to move on from other guys like AJ Green could definitely be a player that's on the block, especially because Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins look to have the Bengals receiving core primed for an extremely bright future. When you look at the Bengals offense, their offensive line is clearly the biggest hole. They're not protecting Joe Burrow well enough. The man is running for his life pretty much every time he takes the field back there. But at the skill positions, Joe Mixon, in my opinion, is a top 10 running back in the league. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd have the potential, as you hear the police outside my window again. That is a weekly occurrence at this point. But yes, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd at this point, they have potential to be an elite duo down the line without AJ Green. Obviously, they probably need a tight end after losing Tyler Eifert this offseason. But yeah, Trent, I'm with you. I'm taking the Titans in this one, and I'm not sure it's going to be particularly close, although I'd love to see Joey B make it a game. Jay, I'll throw it to you to wrap up our Titans versus Bengals predictions.
I'm going with the Titans in this game. I think that they'll have their way on offense. And on defense, I think Kevin Byard gets his first interception of the season. And I think that, Joe Burrow puts up a good fight, but the Titans just have too much firepower. It's too much of a better team. So I'm going to take the Titans.
All right. No surprise there. We're still on the same page. I'm not expecting it to change after this matchup, so we can roll through this one pretty quickly. We have the New York Jets taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Trent, why are you taking New York in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I really think Joe Flacco's going to come in the second half and just tear through this Chiefs defense. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, the Jets are 20-point underdogs heading into this matchup, which is the largest spread I've seen in I don't know how long. The Chiefs will probably cover. They may put, they may win by 30 points in this game. I don't think that you could play this at a high school, and the Chiefs. I mean, it doesn't matter where this game is played, or it just doesn't matter. The Chiefs are going to crush the Jets. I feel bad for any fans in attendance, if they even allow fans. I'm not sure if New York is allowing fans, but yeah, this isn't going to be pretty.
All right, Jay, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, the COVID restrictions are in place for fans, but I think there's other reasons why they're not allowing fans at this game. For the reasons you just said, it's not going to be pretty because the Jets are going to wipe the floor with it. Yeah, listen, the Chiefs team are starting to, a sign of a great team is if Patrick Mahomes is kind of like not taking games off, of course, he's playing very well, but he's not having to do as much right now to win football games because the team is behind him, and that's a sign of a great football team. By the way, it's not a knock on Patrick Mahomes. He's doing everything he needs to. I'm just saying that, we look at the game last week against another bad team in the Broncos, and, they got a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown. That's how you, ensure that your franchise quarterback is going to play a lot of years, and they look like a complete team right now. The defense has certainly impressed me. But even if they didn't look like a complete team, and even if they were any other team in the National Football League, I would still take them over the Jets. So Chiefs this week.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one too. Pretty much obvious reasons what you guys said. I would like to highlight from a fantasy perspective, if you have Le'Veon Bell on your roster, I'm firing him up this week, and I might even consider firing him up over Clyde Edwards-Helaire if you have both of them on your rosters. Trent, you're giving me a weird look right now, and I can see it in the top right corner of my screen, but I'll tell you why. Le'Veon Bell, when he was deciding between which teams he was going to sign with, I'm pretty sure every team he picked was playing the Jets within the first 3 games he would have been eligible to play. That was not a coincidence. He is hungry to dominate New York, and especially Adam Gase, who we know he did not have a good relationship with throughout his time in New York. It was very brief, and Le'Veon Bell made millions of dollars and completely fleeced the Jets. But you get the weird feeling that he views this as a revenge game more than the Jets view it as a revenge game against Le'Veon Bell. So from a fantasy perspective, I'm starting Bell. I think that Andy Reid is going to give him the touches necessary, especially to help get him acclimated in this offense, because this is a game that they can just mess around with. This is a game where they can try things out, see what's going to work down the line. Why not sit Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not necessarily sit him for the entire time, but give him limited touches, rest him up for next game, and let Le'Veon Bell go out there and prove what he can do in this new Kansas City offense. All right. Moving on, we have probably our first real close game of the season. I think this one's probably going to be a toss-up. The Indianapolis Colts, who, as Trent said earlier, coming off an important win over the Cincinnati Bengals last week, taking on the Detroit Lions, who appear to be in win-now mode after trading for Everson Griffin. Not exactly sure the logic behind making that move, but it happened. So, Detroit apparently thinks they can win now. Not sure about that one. Jay, I'll throw it to you. Who are you taking in this one?
I'm going to take the Colts. I picked Detroit last week, and they won by a point over the Falcons. To be fair, I thought they were going to win by more than a point over the Falcons. And I know a win's a win. Doesn't matter how much you win by. But I think for that and the reason that I think the Colts are a better team with a better defense, I have to take the Colts. Phillip Rivers has looked not that great, save for a couple moments. But even he should be able to move the ball on this Detroit Lions defense. And I think the Colts defense will do enough.
All right, Trent, I'll throw it to you. Who are you taking?
Yeah, just something to note on from what you said. It was actually the Browns that beat the Bengals last week, and the Colts are coming off the
Oh,
bye.
it was. Yeah, my
Yeah, you're
apologies. Yeah,
you're
yeah.
good. But even having said that, and I am a big fan of teams coming off the bye week. I liked what the Lions did last week. I did pick them like Jay did, and I think being at home is going to be a nice feeling for Stafford and this Lions team. I think they actually beat the Colts here. I'm not too high on Rivers and this Colts team. The Colts have a really strong defense, but their offense really hasn't been clicking. Um, Jonathan Taylor has been good, but I think he's almost underperformed some of his expectations so far this season. And I think this Lions team, DeAndre Swift is coming into form. Kenny Galladay looked really good last week. Hawkinson was getting involved. I mean, this offense started to really click, and they made that game-winning drive. And I respect Stafford as a quarterback, and they're a home underdog. I'm going to take the home underdog here and go with the Lions.
Yeah, Trent, I thought it was interesting that they were a home underdog too, especially considering on paper, I think this matchup is pretty close. I am actually going to roll with Detroit in this one just because I haven't loved what I've seen out of Indianapolis. Phillip Rivers, Jay, I know you said you think he can move the ball. I'm not sure if he'll have to a certain extent because I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a big game this week. Trent, I agree with you completely. He has underperformed to a certain extent, and it's weird because he's done what you need him to do. But from a fantasy perspective, I know I looked into this. He hasn't scored more than 20 points in a game so far this season. So while he's been a consistent presence for them, he hasn't necessarily boomed like people were expecting them to, given the workload he's received. So I think that he'll have a good game, but I'm taking the Lions because I think their offense at this time is more complete and they can outgun the Colts because I just don't believe in Phillip Rivers at this point. As you said, Trent, TJ Hawkinson really came into form last game. DeAndre Swift has looked great over the last two matchups. And Kenny Galladay, we know he's the man in Detroit, but he really is starting to show it now. He's been coming into form. Not to mention Marvin Jones finally had a decent game as the wide receiver too for this Detroit Lions squad. So I'm just going to take the Lions in this one. I think it's going to be close, but I'm rolling with Detroit. All right. Moving on, we have, if not the game of the week, one of the games of the week, the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar versus Big Ben. Jay, I'll throw it to you. Who are you taking?
I'm going to take the Ravens because they're at home. If you look at the Steelers' schedule, it's not that many tough games for them on paper coming up. So I'm like, okay, where are their lot? If they're going to lose, where is it going to come from? And so, the Ravens are at home, right?
I believe they are. I'll check though.
Ravens are home. Yep.
Yeah, so I think they're going to split the series this season, and I think the Ravens, I think both home teams will win. I don't see a 16-0 team in the NFL this year, even though the Steelers are undefeated. I don't know, like they're the last undefeated team, obviously, but I'm basically saying I don't see the Steelers being 16-0. And I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, I don't know how many games they're going to lose, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick the Ravens this time.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Sound logic to me. Trent, I'll throw it to you. I know that you like this Ravens team, but the Steelers have looked really tough. Who are you taking?
As I mentioned before, even though I went against my philosophy, I do like teams coming off a bye week. It has seemed to be effective for a lot of teams this season, or at least early on in the season. The Ravens are coming off a bye week. Steelers are coming off a really tough game. I like the Ravens at home. I think being home in a real rivalry matchup here plays a factor. And yeah, Baltimore. I like Lamar Jackson. I know you haven't loved how he's thrown the ball this season, Jeff, but I still think he's a really good quarterback. He may not be complete at this point in time, but he's really hard to stop. I'm gonna roll with the Ravens here. I think it's gonna be a really good game. It may come down to a last second field goal or a missed field goal from a team. I don't really know, but I do think the Ravens find a way to win this game.
All right. So it looks like I'm going to be the only person taking Pittsburgh this week. And over the last couple of matchups, I've grown really fond of this Pittsburgh team. They probably the toughest team in the NFL, in my opinion, in terms of mental fortitude and offensively, defensively. They are going to run the ball down your throat and then stuff the run on the other side of the ball. So when you look at this Ravens team, the key to success for them is running the ball. I know that from a fantasy perspective, the running backs have been frustrating, and Mark Ingram may not play this week, so this could finally be the chance J.K. Dobbins gets to lead this backfield. However, I'm not loving his prospects against TJ Watt and the Steelers this week. So I think that there's a good chance that they take away the run, force Lamar to throw. If there's one thing we've seen from this Baltimore Ravens team is they do not play well from behind. They need to have the lead to win games. So I think that if the Steelers are able to jump up 1 or 2 scores on them, I'm not sure Lamar and company are able to recover. So that's why I'm going to take the Steelers in this one, but I think this is going to be a tremendously great close game, and it's probably going to be one of the games of the year if it lives up to hype. All right.
Can I say one more thing real quick?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, in my take, I sort of only made about the Steelers and them having gonna eventually lose the game. I do think that this is also for the Ravens. Everyone's sort of, they're still on a lot of people's, top 7, top 5 power rankings, right?
Yeah.
But they're not getting as much media attention right now. And I think that for them, this is probably a game. It's like, hey, look, this is our chance to, prove that we are that team that we were last year. So, and yes, Lamar Jackson, pretty good quarterback. So we'll see. It's going to be a great game.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Moving on, we have the Los Angeles Rams, who absolutely dominated Trent Chicago Bears, taking on the Miami Dolphins, my Miami Dolphins. Trent, I'll throw it to you. And this one, who are you taking?
I think I may be 0 for 7 when the Bears are playing. I don't think I've picked them correctly.
I think you are. So yeah.
I trash talked when they went on a winning streak, and I was like, I'll never take them. Finally take them, they lose. Cannot stand the damn Bears. Anyways, this is not a bad matchup. Like you said, the Rams looked pretty good last week, and I'm very high on the Dolphins. I'm higher on Fitzmagic than I am Tua, though. I don't know how much I love Fitzmagic getting benched for no reason. This team was looking really good, and the offense was clicking. And for me, they're throwing a wrench in the system because I know Tua played, the last drive of their last game, but I mean, really, this move is uncalled for, in my opinion. I think it actually hurts the Dolphins' chances to win this game because Tua's going to come in and he's going to have Aaron Donald coming at him at full speed in his first game. I don't like that at all. I'm going to take the Rams, even though I need Dolphins. I picked them to make the playoffs. I don't like this matchup for the Dolphins. I'm going to go with the Rams. Honestly, it sounds kind of sad, but I hope Tua underperforms and they bring Fitzmagic back.
Yeah, Trent, I guess I'll jump in here and give my prediction before throwing to Jay. I understand, obviously, when they made that move and it was announced that Fitzmagic was going to be benched, I know that all 3 of us, I think, connected at some point saying basically we were confused about the move. At least I had conversations with Jay and Trent about it. And I think I understand that from the Dolphins' point of view, they were always planning on making this move, and the bye week seemed like the perfect time to get Tua acclimated to this offense. So I understand that. If you're thinking long-term, obviously you're not really contending this year. Although in my opinion, if you have a chance to make the playoffs, you make it, especially if you're the Miami Dolphins. So I think that's a mistake on that front specifically. But from a long-term perspective, I understand if you wanted to move Tua in, bring him in, get him acclimated to this offense early. But I think you made a really good point, Trent. His first real NFL start, he's going to be having one of the best defensive players in NFL history coming down on him repeatedly. And I'm not sure that anyone in that Miami offensive line is going to be able to stop Aaron Donald, even if they double team him. So that's really scary, throwing him into that situation as first game. I'm taking the Rams here as well. I think that they're just going to overwhelm the Dolphins, although I don't think there's any chance they bench Tua, even if he underperforms, because that would just be a killer for his confidence. Jay, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I agree with what you said at the end there. So I originally thought Tua would have the starting job a little in October, now at the beginning before the season started. But after seeing how well Fitz has played, it did surprise me that they made the move. Especially, I know they had a bye week, but like you said, Trent, I mean, this is Aaron Donald. This is the best defensive player in the National Football League. So, and that Rams defense is also no joke in its totality. Look what they did against Nick Foles. Not that that's the litmus test, but they're obviously a very good defense. And so I can't pick a rookie quarterback in his first start very often, right? Or if ever, especially against a defense this good. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Rams. If the Dolphins win this game, I'm on the Tua train, man. He is the starter for the rest of the year, obviously. And if he wins this game, you're right, Trent, they might have a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, just if it's okay to add on to that, I mean, looking at the Dolphins' schedule, I mean, they have the Rams this week and Cardinals next week, but they enter a 4-game stretch where they play the Chargers, Broncos, Jets, and Bengals. Those are 4 games that they can easily win. And if they can go into that game at least being 500, I don't know if having Tua at quarterback against the Rams and Cardinals they'll get one of those 2 games. But let's just say they are. I don't see them losing any of those 4 games. I really don't. I think they can win all 4 of those. And at that point, they're possibly first in the AFC East, which would be absurd. I just don't know if Tua is, like you said, I mean, they're playing on the future. I'm thinking the Dolphins could have been legitimate playoff contenders this season, and they may be throwing that away, having Tua start this week.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I do think that the Bengals will end up taking that game, but we'll get to that multiple weeks in the future at this point. And Trent, I think that's a fair point, which really raises eyebrows again. Why bench Fitzmagic at this time if you're going to have the potential to enter that stretch where you can really make a push to make the playoffs, especially if Tua comes out, wets the bed, and they play horribly and drop these next 2 games. That would not be a good look for Brian Flores and this Dolphins team. All right, moving on. A topic that I didn't really want to cover this week because it's been ugly for all 3 of us as New England Patriots fans, getting absolutely decimated 33-6 by Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers, a banged up 49ers team at that, without Raheem Mostert. And their tremendous defensive players in Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas. And the Patriots still found a way to get absolutely pummeled. This week, it's a must-win for Bill Belichick and company, and they are taking on divisional rival, sitting atop the AFC East, Buffalo Bills, who barely squeaked out a win against the New York Jets. And I think that as a Patriots fan, that's the one thing you can take sauce to, is that this Bills team is beatable. They haven't played great football over the last 3 weeks. Josh Allen looked tremendous to start the year, but he's definitely faded as the weeks have gone on. So I know that Patriots fans are confident in this game. Bill Belichick has repeatedly had Sean McDermott's number in important games, and this one is absolutely a must-win for New England. So that being said, Jay, I'll throw it to you. Who are you taking?
Yeah, hopefully we can spend a little more time on this game. I know we're trying to keep it under 45, but I do want to talk about this. So yeah, it's crazy how quickly narratives can change, right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago everyone was talking about, oh, this Patriots team hasn't missed a beat. They still look like Super Bowl contenders. I was texting you, Jeff, during the Broncos-Patriots game, and I was like, this is when they hadn't scored a touchdown in the game, and I was like, man, the last time they hadn't scored a touchdown at home was like 2016 Bills, Jacoby Brissett. Thankfully, they scored a touchdown against the Broncos. Then we turn around and don't score a touchdown at home against the 49ers. So complete mess. COVID is still an issue that has been plaguing this team. I still don't think you can really point too much to the Broncos game, but the 49ers game, absolutely no excuses. Now, I see a lot of the Patriots fans like lamenting the Brady Belichick breakup, right? It's not. There's no reason to lament. It was 20 years of the best football the league will ever see. It was going to end at some point. The only reason it didn't end in New England as with Brady retiring in a Patriots jersey was because 20 years later, the man still has it. So there's no reason to dwell on that. But what we can say is, okay, how is Belichick handling this transition? And, I really still believe in Belichick's long-term plan. There's no reason not to. But if we want to talk about this opening to the season, like I said, I didn't have crazy expectations. I had us going 9-7, and here we are, even below that. And I didn't really expect us to, be in the same conversation as other AFC teams like the Titans and the Chiefs. But, we like I said last week, we need to make some moves. Belichick needs to make some moves because I don't know if he was like, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know if this is true, but if he was arrogant enough to think that this offense wouldn't miss a beat, he had to have seen that was not the case. I still believe in Cam. I still think that Cam is adjusting, although I don't think when he adjusts, it'll be the same ceiling that a lot of people were expecting, right? I still think he'll adjust, and I thought he would adjust to like a 9-7 point, at least for this first year. So, I wasn't even really that high on like Cam's how much statistical production his passing game would have this year because of the weapons around him, and I kind of figured that Seahawks game was more to do with the Seahawks defense. But I still think that Cam can get back to those first 3 weeks. We just need to surround him with something and make some moves because clearly this is not it. And when he doesn't pass well, the run game does not work because teams are like, okay, throw the ball, right? So we need to get that moving to get his running game moving. And that's the one thing I was like, everyone was like, oh, he makes this offense so much better than last year. I was like, whoa. No. He makes the run game so much better than last year, not the passing game. But we need to get that passing game going to get back the running game. So we need to make some moves, make Cam more comfortable. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and make predictions because I don't know what's going to happen before the trade deadline. I'll address that once I see the moves. If we don't make significant enough moves, we can put a fork in the season. If we do, we'll see. Still early.
I think all of that is valid. Trent, I'll throw it to you, and then I'll throw something in at the end myself. But who are you taking in this game, and how do you feel about the Patriots for the rest of the season? Also, by the way, Jay, I don't think you said who you were taking in this game, so throw that in real quick.
Oh my goodness. Listen, Jeff, I really want to take the Patriots, man. I'm rooting for them in this game. I hope I'm wrong.
All right.
I just can't. It's at Buffalo, right?
Yeah, it's in Buffalo.
I just can't take the Patriots against the division leader until I see something. It's just I have to see something, especially when we haven't made moves yet. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Bills. But I hope, if I'm wrong, great weekend.
Sounds good. All right, Trent, I'll throw it to you. Who are you taking in this one, and how do you feel about the Patriots for the rest of the season?
It's definitely a weird game because I thought the Niners would come in and we would look pretty good against a team that got blown out by Dolphins. Saying we already beat the Dolphins, and then we get blown out by the team that got blown out by the Dolphins. So, yeah, I was pretty confused. The Pats looked borderline awful last week. Actually, they were
a little over
awful.
the border, I'd say.
Yeah, they were awful.
A couple miles south, probably.
And now we're going to play a team that just struggled against the Jets, and it's like I don't know how to feel about it. The reason why I'm picking the Bills is because they're home. I look at the weather; it's going to be raining, which isn't ideal for Newton. It's raining in like 47 degrees. If it was snowing, I'd say the Bills by a million. I don't think Newton will be able to handle the cold, but we'll see. I mean, he's in New England; he's got to be ready for it. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills. And I'm my outlook on the season would be, I don't know if it's particularly Newton's fault that we haven't looked that great on offense. I mean, Edelman has not been the same player. He really has not been. I think the turning point for me was when he had that pass from Stidham that turned into a pick six. And that was just like a prototypical just catch and run type of play. And it just wasn't there. And it was just like, that kind of raised my eyebrows, and he just hasn't been the same player since then. I don't really know. And N'Keal Harry's banged up. There has to be some moves on the offensive side. And it sounds like Gilmore is going to get moved as well. At least it's a possibility. So I'm going to assume some moves are made before the deadline. I'd like to see another wide receiving option and possibly a tight end. Not both, but just one of the two to be added to this Patriots lineup before the trade deadline. And if that doesn't happen, the Pats probably win 5 or 6 games max.
All right, now just to jump in, Trent, you said something there that I'm going to touch on. Jay, I don't know if you've heard this today, but Stephon Gilmore's house did go on the market, and the listing was taking offers until November 3rd at 4 p.m., 1 hour after the trade deadline. So, yeah, I think that says everything you need to say about that. That Gilmore, there's probably a better chance that he's gone than he's here after the trade deadline, which as Patriots fans, we had to be prepared for his departure at some point. I don't think if it doesn't come this trade deadline, I think it's coming this offseason. Bill Belichick was never going to extend your old cornerback, even a guy that's in as good as Gilmore has. He's obviously the reigning defensive player of the year, but the writing was on the wall there, and we'll see what happens. I think there still is a chance that they move him, and then Trent, as you said, look to find an upgrade at wide receiver or tight end, whoever it is, whether it's Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, AJ Green. Those are just some names that they've been linked to. I honestly have no idea what Belichick's thinking, but we'll have a great idea of how he feels about the season based on the moves he makes at the deadline. If he picks up a guy like Fuller and then a tight end, maybe in a package with Fuller, bring in Darren Fells, bring in Evan Engram, Kyle Rudolph, you know that he still thinks this team can contend. But if he doesn't do anything that really upgrades the offense at the trade deadline, we all know where this team's headed. It's headed towards Tank City, unfortunately, for the rest of the year. And I just don't want to see that happen because I still think Cam Newton has a lot left in the tank. I still think that this Patriots offense has a lot left in the tank. So that's just my perspective, Jay. I'll throw it to you real quick, and then we'll move on to the next matchup.
Yeah, I just want to say also, like, I understand that the first 3 weeks, Cam had better games with the same weapons, right? So I'm not ruling out the possibility that even if we don't make any moves, then he still has some good games here and then down the road. But the only way he's going to even get to that point is if he fixes his mechanics. A lot of people that know a lot more about football than me were on Twitter this week breaking down his mechanics, and I was like, oh yeah. So, definitely some blame can still be put on Cam. And to Cam's credit, a lot of, I'm not going to say idiots, but a lot of people in New England were like, really like, oh man, like Cam's a head case. Like he's all about himself. He's not, this man has owned up to his bad play, and his maturity has never been a problem. I saw people talking about his outfits this week. Everyone in that locker room says he's first to the field, last to leave. Why are we talking about outfits? I know it's just a handful of people, but that's not the problem, right? I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. Kind of stupid to criticize a way a guy dresses if he's just expressing himself and he's showing up consistently. First, as you said, Jay, first to arrive, last to leave. All right, moving on. We spent quite a bit of time on that game. Obviously, as Patriots fans, we were going to, but we'll pick things up. Moving forward, we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Cleveland Browns. I think this one is set up to be a pretty entertaining matchup as well. Both of these teams have been much more entertaining and impressive than we had expected heading into this year. Trent, I'll throw it to you first. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I'll try to keep this quick. I was surprised that the Browns won last week. They are going to be home. Having said that, Derek Carr has consistently been a good quarterback, which kind of took me by shock this season. Josh Jacobs is due for a big game. It may be. I think it is against this Browns team. I'm surprised the Raiders are underdogs. They have some big wins against big teams, or they've dropped some potential big wins against big teams. Last week they kind of got slapped. I think they come back with vengeance, and they play a Browns team that I think is very vulnerable. Two good offenses. I'm going to go with the Raiders here.
All right, sounds good. Jay, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Raiders as well. Bounce back week for Las Vegas. The defense played awfully against the Bucs last week. I don't think they're up for as much of a challenge against this Browns team, especially with Odell Beckham Jr. out for the year. And I think that Derek Carr will have a game. Where's this game, can I ask?
I think it's in Cleveland, yeah.
Doesn't matter. I'm taking the Raiders. But you know what? Credit to Baker Mayfield, right? I know I'm not that high on him, and I know a lot of people like to make fun of him and his commercials and all that. What a game from that dude last week. after starting 0-5 with an interception. I texted you, Jeff. I was like, hey, man, I have more first quarter yards than Baker Mayfield so far. But listen, he turned it around, played probably the game of his career. I just think that the Raiders, this is like a bounce back week for them, and they're a fantastic team, so I'm taking them.
Yeah, I'm going to go against both of you guys here, and it may be because of my Cleveland bias. As Trent knows, Jay, I'm not sure you know, half of my family is from Cleveland. So I think that the Browns can win this game, and I think weather is going to be an important aspect here. Because if you look at the Raiders, they're used to playing in sunshine, no bad weather in Las Vegas. And then you look at Cleveland, this week it's going to be rainy, winds up to 29 miles per hour. And I think that this is a game that the Browns are made to win. They have been much better on the ground running the ball than the Raiders have, especially lately. Trent, I know you said that Josh Jacobs, this was the game he was going to bounce back. Their offensive line is a mess. I don't think he has been the problem. Their offensive line has probably been the problem. And I'm not sure they're able to fix it. This one against Myles Garrett, who is quickly becoming one of the best defensive players in the league. I'm taking Cleveland to this one. May I just say, I feel so bad for Odell Beckham Jr., but from the Browns standpoint, Baker Mayfield has been a much better quarterback when he's been off the field historically. So we'll see if he's able to keep that going, especially with the emergence of Rashard Higgins, who looked like an absolute monster last week in OBJ's absence. So I'm taking the Browns there. Both you guys taking the Raiders. Moving on, we have the Los Angeles Chargers led by Justin Herbert, who at this point, I think we can all say is a lock for Rookie of the Year, unless he does something stupid. Or maybe Joe Burrow comes in and snatches that away from him. Who knows? I think it's Herbert, though, taking on a banged up, decimated Denver Broncos team that's in need for a win. I'll start things off here. I don't think they find it this week. I love Herbert in this matchup. Mike Williams, I think he's healthy this week. Keenan Allen came back after getting banged up. He looked tremendous. Obviously, the Chargers are still missing Austin Eckler. Had a monster of Justin Jackson and Joshua Kelly has been able to get things done with them. Hunter Henry still needs to step up. And I think this is just a game where the Chargers tune things up and probably get a little better on the offensive side of the football, really patch their holes. And for the Broncos, I think that they are still going to be in scramble mode. Drew Lock, Trent, I know you especially are really high on him. I'm not sure that he's going to be bouncing back this week, but who knows? And speaking of Trent, as you are a Drew Lock fan, I will toss this one to you.
Yeah, Drew Lock has not panned out so far. He hasn't looked too hot. Herbert's looked really good. The Chargers beat my Jags last week. The Jags were up too. They came all the way back, man. I thought they were going to steal that game. You guys were going to look silly, and then, well, the Jags did Jags things. And they threw the game. I'm going to go with the Chargers here. I think they're the better team than the Broncos. It is to note that Melvin Gordon came back last week. He had a good game. And Philip Lindsay still played, and he had a good game. So their running game's strong. But Drew Lock has not gotten it done this season. I'm going to go with the Chargers.
Yeah, and I think Philip Lindsay is concussed and will be out this week as well. And Melvin Gordon, he had a decent game. He lost a couple of bad fumbles throughout there, but they were playing in really bad weather. So I'm not expecting that to be the case this week. And we all know that Melvin Gordon is still capable of handling a large workload as the guy, as he showed in LA with the Chargers. All right, Jay, I'll throw it to you.
I don't have much to say. Justin Herbert is that dude. Chargers are a good team. Broncos are banged up. Taking the Chargers.
All right.
I know the Chargers are banged up too, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, fair enough. Moving on to the final four matchups of the week, we have one that some might consider close. Trent, I'm going to toss this one to you first, and then Jay, I'll hit you with a couple in a row because it considers a team that you have a fond relationship to this year in the Chicago Bears, taking on the New Orleans Saints. Trent, who are you taking?
Don't let me down, New Orleans. I'm going with the Saints. I have not picked a Bears game correct yet this season. Drew Brees is not losing to freaking Nick Foles. There's no way. I am rolling with the Saints, and I hope the Bears have a good defense. Don't get me wrong. They do have a good defense, but the Saints got to win. The Saints have to win this game. For me, for New Orleans, for anyone who doesn't like the Bears, come on, Saints.
Fair enough. Jay, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, well, history would say I got to go against Trent here. I mean, there's no football logic behind this. This is just purely Trent is 0-7 when picking the Bears. So I guess I have to go and pick the Bears. No, actually, I am really undecided on this game. And I actually didn't really have a pick until this moment. I'm gonna make my pick now. This is the first time I'm making a pick like this, but I guess I'm gonna go with the Bears. And
Oh my god.
mainly just because, the Bears defense is still gonna show up. I know that Jared Goff and that misdirection Rams offense did some numbers against the Bears team, but there's not really any tricks too much in that Saints offense. It's just like, okay, find Alvin Kamara. Okay, what is Drew Brees going to do this week? So, I'm going to take the Bears, and I think that Nick Foles can't have as bad of a game as he had last week. So hopefully that means he's going to have a good game and prove my prediction right. What was I going to say? One more thing. Oh, yeah, the Panthers-Saints game last week. It was a 3-point game, right? And I know the Panthers are a good team, and I know I said the Panthers were a good team before I picked the Saints last week. But 3 points, it's not a lot of separation between a team that has a worse defense than the Bears. Granted, a way better offense, but we'll see what happens. Again, there's a reason that I was undecided on this game until like literally right now, but I'm gonna go with Chicago.
You know what, Jay? You convinced me. I had the Saints written down, and the fact that Trent has not picked a Bears game right just makes me want to take them even more, especially since it's the Bears. So I'm rolling with Chicago. Bear down here. I do think that Nick Foles has to have a better game. Allen Robinson, that's a player to watch. He has entered concussion protocol and will hopefully be back. I'm not sure that if he doesn't play, they have any chance to win this game, but I'm assuming he's going to be back out there. Darnell Mooney and Anthony Miller, they look pretty good up to the part. And who was it? Cole Kmet had a couple of big plays last week, showed why Chicago took him in the second round despite having 35 tight ends on their roster at the time. Jimmy Graham also looked good. So we know that Chicago has the weapons in this offense to succeed. David Montgomery, I'm still confident that he can be a good player down the stretch. They just haven't been utilizing him correctly. In my opinion, their offensive line hasn't been nearly as good as we had expected them to be. But at the same time, this defense is tremendous, and they found a way to make the Chicago Bears 5-2 at this point. So I'm rolling with them. All right, moving on. We have another potential for the game of the week. The San Francisco 49ers taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Looking at this game for San Francisco, they've been trying to claw their way back into the playoff picture right now in probably the best division in the league in the NFC West, where all teams are over 500 and all teams are very good. This is a game they have to win if they're going to really make a playoff push, even in the expanded playoff format. Sorry, my apologies. Jay, I'll throw it to you. Who are you taking?
Man, this is another close game. So I picked the Cardinals last week over the Seahawks for the same reason that I never had the Seahawks over the Chiefs, even in my week-to-week, very recency biased, weekly power rankings, right? I never had the Seahawks over the Chiefs, even though the record was better, because I didn't really think that this team was as sustainable as like a team like the Chiefs. And I said with my Colin Cowherd type analogy that they were a Russell Wilson bad game away from a loss, and they had been getting in a lot of close games, which is not sustainable. And that's exactly what happened last week. Now, do I think that the 49ers can take a game this year against the Seahawks? Yes. I just don't think it'll be the one in Seattle. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. But listen, this 49ers team is looking like, it's getting back to what it was good at last year. And that's a great defense and run the ball down your throat. It doesn't matter if Jimmy G has 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. We're going to put up 33, right? So, so they're doing what they need to do in the last couple of weeks. I think they're going to put up a fight here against the Seahawks, but Russell Wilson's not going to throw 3 interceptions, and they're at home. So I'm going to go with Seattle.
Fair enough. Trent, I'll throw it to you.
The only time the Seahawks were down last game was at the end of OT. That was just, it shouldn't have happened.
Seahawks are going to blow the Niners out. Russell Wilson MVP. Next question.
All right, Trent, I know that you are still salty about that one. I think you had some money on it too, but we'll just move on from that. I am going to take the Seahawks here as well to round out all three of us taking Seattle. I don't see Russell Wilson being the MVP candidate he is this year, and the Seattle Seahawks, despite their weak secondary, I don't see them dropping 2 in a row at any point this year. So I'm taking Seattle. All right, moving on, we have the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sure that the NFL thought this was a good idea when scheduling it for a Sunday night game at the beginning of the season. Now, it looks like it's going to be a disaster. Ben DiNucci will likely get the start for the Cowboys. Yes, for all of those of you in the back who did not hear me correctly, that is Ben DiNucci, BenDinucci. Be prepared to write it all over your wall as he becomes the next player to lead the Cowboys to a Super Bowl. All right.
I didn't even know his name until you said it.
Yeah. Moving on. Jay, I'll throw this one to you. Who are you taking?
I'm taking the Cowboys are somehow worse than I thought they were. I didn't necessarily believe the reports of that team checking out because I'm thinking, hey, these are NFL athletes, they're professionals. I don't think they're checking out. Then I listened to Tony Gonzalez talk about how he was on some teams where people were kind of checked out. And then I watched them play against the Washington football team. And that made me realize maybe I was wrong. So this Cowboys team is worse than I thought. And yeah, I just think the Eagles are trending upward. No, they're the best team in the NFC East. And so I think they're going to win this game. And we'll have a 3-win division leader now.
That would be something, wouldn't it? All right, Trent, I'll throw this one to you.
Yeah, I mean, this is weird. If Dalton was starting a quarterback, I'd probably pick the Cowboys because I still
You love Dalton for some reason.
I like Dalton, and the Eagles should have lost to the Giants, in all honesty. They were down by 11 with 6 minutes left. But Miles Sanders is going to be out most likely again. Eagles may get Alshon Jeffrey back. Keep an eye out on that one. He may come back. I'm going to go with the Eagles. Ben DiNucci is not the answer for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm going with the Eagles here too. Carson Wentz may lead the league in picks, but he's coming off 2 pretty solid games, especially from a fantasy perspective. And I think that they keep rolling. I'm not sure Alshon Jeffrey's return helps them whatsoever, as I think there's a decent chance he's now on their roster after the trade deadline. I think they'd love to see him come in and put up big numbers so they could ship him away. I think that Philadelphia, looking at their roster, they love what they see in Travis Fulgham. Obviously, they're still hoping that Jalen Reagor can be that guy that they drafted him to be over Justin Jefferson, who has just looked like an absolute stud. I know that Philly fans are probably scratching their eyes out at this point watching him ball out in Minnesota. But I'm still going to take the Eagles here because they are the less worse team out of this matchup. All right. Moving on to Monday Night Football, wrapping up our predictions for this week. We have the Tampa Bay Bucks taking on the New York Giants. Really weird Monday Night Football matchup. Not exactly sure what the NFL was thinking here. I have a feeling we're all going to go with the Bucks on this one. I'll start it out by saying I am, and my reasoning is it's the Bucks versus the Giants. Trent, I'll throw it to you.
I will second your pick and second your reasoning. I will pass it on to Jay.
I think one of the reasons they actually scheduled this game was because I think the Giants-Bucks game last year was like crazy. I could be wrong, but I think there was some like bad blood between those 2 teams. Let me fact check me on that. Yeah, I went on my rant last week, right? About Brady with that 2010 comparison. And now this week, everyone wants to compare Brady to 2010, 2007, and 2017. Why? Because he's playing like an MVP. And I know last week I said, first of all, Russ is still number 1 for me, by the way. And I think Aaron Rodgers is number 2. But last week, I finished up my comparison by basically saying, but you shouldn't expect a unanimous MVP and no picks. While I still believe in that, what I was hinting at is you should expect him to be in this MVP conversation because once this offense gets clicking, which they clicked against the Raiders, that was the ceiling. You know what I mean? Like Brady was capable of putting up these numbers. And I am just so happy that I was not crazy last year when I was watching these Patriots games and seeing no speed come off the ball, no accuracy drop offs. The guy still has it. Who would have thought that weapons were what? Like, why was this not more clear to people? This dude is 43 putting up these types of numbers. That defense is not going anywhere. We'll talk about AB when we get there, but I mean, this is crazy to me. They're fun to watch. And this Giants team, oh my goodness, man. Listen, I'm so sorry, New York. Your two teams are so bad. The Yankees can't win a World Series.
LA is exactly what New York wants to be at this point. All right. I think that is going to wrap it up here. I think the Bucks, the Giants' only hope is that Chris Godwin is going to be out for this game after getting finger surgery. Mike Evans, maybe he just decides not to show up again, and then Gronk decides also not to show up, and Brady decides to start playing like a 43-year-old. I don't think any of that happens this week, and the Bucks are probably going to roll the Giants. So that is going to wrap up the football portion of this episode. Here on the Rollout, we don't touch on politics or social activism or justice a lot. Trent, I know that we did at one point to talk about the Washington football team. This doesn't have to do with football, but this is an incident that occurred recently, and it hits very close home to Jay. Trent and I have no really relation to this incident, but we want to give the floor to Jay to kind of talk about this, and then we will sign off. Jay, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't feel comfortable coming on here if I didn't talk about this. This is something that is pretty disgusting, to be honest. I just want to say rest in peace to Karan Hilton, and I'm thinking of his family and his loved ones, and it's hard. I hope his 3-month-old child gets the justice, and I hope he gets his justice. And I urge everyone to look into this story. I just want to spell his name so everyone has this. Karan Hilton, KaronHylton. It's been picked up by a lot of news outlets by now, so you guys can look into it. It's frankly disgusting, and you're right, Jeff. It is very close to my home, so I would feel bad if I was not sharing it on here. And I hope he gets his justice, and I urge everyone listening to look into this story, because what I'm hearing is frankly unacceptable.
Yeah, Jay, I think that I speak for both Trent and I when I say that, this might not be about football, but this is obviously an incident that is very close to home for you, and we respect you coming out and speaking out about it. So with that being said, I think that is a good place for us to sign off here. Trent and Jay, thank you both so much for coming on here again, and we will be back in week 9 on a brighter note to wrap up these picks and hopefully see if the Chicago Bears can get a dub over the New Orleans Saints. So all that being said, thank you guys so much for staying tuned. Jay, thank you so much for that message at the end there. We're all with you here. And I hope that if you guys are interested in listening, to absolutely go check out that situation, read about it for yourself to understand what was going on. I did personally, and I think it was disgusting as well. And Trent, I don't know if you have anything else to add there, but if not, I feel free just to wrap things up right now.
Thanks for having us, Jeff. And I hope I can keep my prediction streak going here.
Yeah, I hope so too. Trent, it looks like his Wi-Fi has crashed at this point, so that's another great spot to wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of The Rollout. Stay safe as always, and enjoy some football this weekend.